So my organizational style, as we've talked about before, is macro, but Mark is a micro organizer. And I thought it would be great for us to just sit here and talk about the differences in what those organizational styles are, because a lot of you guys are micro organizers. Welcome back to the shop. This gentleman is here for the day, and we just spent a bunch of time straightening, organizing, and catching up on stuff that's just been like a big cloud of debris behind me for the last 2 months, probably.
Mike is a tornado.
Tasmanian devil.
There you go.
Something like that. So we thought since he was here, we would take some time to do another one in our shop organization video series, because he is a completely different type of organizer, and I thought it would be good for the North and the South Pole to sit down and find some equatorial ground. I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm Mike.
I'm Mark.
This is My Car Shop. So what are your thoughts after we just went through? And I mean, it wasn't terrible compared to what it's been.
It was not terrible compared to when the first time I came here.
God.
Yeah, this was markedly better. And yeah, it took us a couple hours?
Yeah, and we were doing a lot of chit-chatting, so.
Yeah, so we just moved things around.
Yep.
Organized things in Mike's style, because if we did it in my style, we'd be starting from scratch and going through everything. That's just the way that I am. So I've learned to appreciate Mike and his organizational style. And so we kind of bounce things off each other and see how it turns out. But
there's the check.
But yeah, we cleaned up a lot of things. We moved a few items that need to be moved. Made room for Fat Fanny here to come into the shop for a little bit. So I think it's been a good day today.
Yeah. So my organizational style, as we've talked about before, is macro, but Mark is a micro organizer. And I thought it would be great for us to just sit here and talk about the differences in what those organizational styles are, because a lot of you guys are micro organizers. And I know sometimes when you watch the videos, you're going, oh!
Yeah, I'm one of those guys, in his tool chest has a little foam mat with cutouts for all the tools, so they all go in a certain little place. And yeah, that's me.
Yep.
It's what makes me comfortable. I know that's not for everybody, but it's for me.
Yeah. And it's very, very different. And I think over the years, as we've worked together here in the shop, well, even at your house years ago, I guess probably the first time was when we did the dash on your vet.
Right.
Probably when you were just down the road a ways. We just function differently, and neither way is right nor wrong. We work really well together, but we definitely have a different mindset.
No, well, I think neither of us feel like we have to be absolutely right.
We both, inside we do.
Well, inside I definitely do. But yeah, I just think, we're willing to have give and take, and I'll suggest, why don't we put this over here? And he's like, oh, that's a good idea. And I would say, what about putting this over here? It's like, that doesn't really work for me. And so, both of us can live with that.
Right, exactly. As well as being macro and micro, I'm very visual, and you're not so visual in your organization.
No, not really. Mike and I have talked about this before, about having things in tubs here, because clear tubs, to where he can see what's in there even without walking over and opening up the container. Whereas myself, I have tubs at home, but that's just where I throw scrap wood to be burned later as part of my bowl turning that I do. So all my tools for my turning that I do, which is my main hobby, are in a little rolling tool chest, all the drawers. And as long as I know what's in those drawers, as long as I'm the one that put them there, I'm comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to see things in order to know where they're at and know where to go get them.
Yeah, and that's a challenge for me, because like I have the tool board back here where I need things visible, where I can look back and say, ooh, 9/16 wrench is missing. And I can tell that from all the way over there if there's not a car in the way.
Fat chance.
Right. I don't think you'll ever see a day that there's no cars in it. But I also know that if everything is visible, then you can't find anything. Right. So that's the challenge for me, where you're much more comfortable. You have a few things I know stuck to magnets and so forth.
Oh, yeah. But that's more just convenience.
Right.
If I could have them hidden away somewhere else, but the tools I work with are steel. I put a magnet strip up and I just boom, boom, boom. And I use rare earth magnets to hang other pieces off the lathe because it's made out of metal. And so it's just things are handy. Mike and I were talking earlier about what a game changer it was when I got my rolling tool cabinet, because I could then save myself 5 or 6 steps to go change sanding pads on my stuff, which 5 or 6 steps is nothing, but it's a game changer when you move all those things closer and you don't have to move at all and can just quickly change, keep moving, keep momentum going. I know it's a big thing for you, is keeping momentum
Yeah.
going, and
Yes.
organizing while you're doing that is a balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I've worked with, I don't know if you've done this to me, but I've definitely worked with other friends where we'll be working on a project together and I'll put a wrench down and I'll go do this and I go to get that wrench and it's gone and it's already back in the toolbox.
I know better.
One of my closest friends, my best friend from forever, he passed away a couple of years ago now, but we would work together and he drove me nuts because I put a wrench down and it was gone back to the toolbox. I'm like, Dave!
No, I know that much about you, that it would be annoying, and that's the last thing I want to be. After all, you're feeding me when I come here.
Well, there's that. Recently had a channel viewer actually made this comment on one of the videos, and I don't remember who it was anymore. I think it might have been a newer person to the channel. Mentioned that at the end of the day, it's about being able to get the job done efficiently.
Right.
And I think for both of us, that's where we land is, if I tried to keep things organized the way you do, I wouldn't be able to work efficiently. And if you did things the way I do, you certainly wouldn't work efficiently.
If you tried to do things like I do, nothing would happen here. I mean, nothing. But, it's like you're saying, it's keeping the workflow going, keeping moving. That's the biggest thing as far as I'm concerned. And in my style, I find that as things are close and I'm able to do them and I know right where I'm reaching, I'm able to get quicker at the jobs that I do,
Yes.
which builds in efficiency just through repetition.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I've really noticed is a byproduct of buying that tool chest has made me quicker at the things I do. I have to make decisions faster because I can get my hands on things quicker, and it just all works out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very true. For me also, even just using containers, I know there's only 3 places generally. Lately, not quite so much, but we've reined it back today. I haven't gone through and emptied the containers, but generally I know it's the container in the toolbox, the container over here, or the workbench wall back there where something's going to be. So I can, especially when Dad and I would work on the Oakland, I'd wander around here while he's working on something. I'd wander around for 10 minutes trying to find tool X. I can usually find stuff pretty quick. And half the time I also find if I'm not finding it, it's only because I overlooked it. It was in one of those places.
Yeah, we've done that.
Yeah, we have. And I think that's the thing is we've touched on 2 organizational styles. There are a few others, but this kind of is
this is a mashup.
It's a mashup. It's the North and South Pole, and there's what's the latitudinal lines in between?
Longitude and latitude. Yep. Changes in latitude, changes in attitude.
So there's different coordinates on the map between all of that where my dad is much, much more like you. Although he did find after I left home, 40 years ago, he wasn't nearly as organized as he thought he was. I know my mom used to say Dad would wander around going, "Where'd Michael put that now?" I had been home for 2 years. But yeah, so an encouragement here is just saying, neither of us are saying this way's right or is wrong.
No.
And you may not do things like either of us do, but the encouragement is find what works for you, and it's by doing what comes natural to you. That's the main thing. And I spent so many years trying to fit into somebody else's style. And you shared a story with me a while ago about a guy that you work with who's a similar organization to you and the relief that he had when he found out that you were not a haphazard worker.
Oh, yeah.
That was a glad.
Yeah. My buddy Craig, he has a place for everything. And there's a reason for it. He's been doing it for forever where he works at. And so he just knows where things are. Mm-hmm. And he's like that old guy that you walk into a hardware shop, that the old guy works there, and you tell him what you need. He goes, "Oh yeah, it's back over here." Well, Craig knows where everything is. And I respected that. I wasn't going to second guess or say my way's going to be better. Right. I wanted to fit in well with what his program was and just keep everything moving along.
Yep.
And that worked out well while I was there.
Yeah. It's everybody's different.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest challenges, especially since we brought the new lathe and the new mill here, has been like the lathe was here for over a year, so I knew where things were.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had learned that. So you were talking about with Craig. I'm sure stuff is where it's been. It's been there a long time.
Sure.
So I've kind of been asked over tea kettle a little bit because we've moved the welding area here and the lathe over there. But you made a really good point about trying new things.
Yeah, I told Mike when he mentioned what a change that was for him, just swapping these two areas out, and they're 10 feet apart or so. And yet it takes courage sometimes to try something new. It might work, it might not, but it's, as I told Mike, I said, we're always looking to avoid change. Change is uncomfortable, but if you allow yourself to enter into that area of being uncomfortable and try something, it might work out, might fall flat on your face, or you might end up finding that that's a step toward the next thing that makes you even more productive, happy, whatever it may be.
Yeah, definitely. It was like a light bulb moment for me, and part of it was because I had a workbench where the lathe is now, where this was. I've had a workbench there for 14 years or 13 years that we've been here. That's the first place I put a workbench, so it's been that way for a long time. And so when I put the lathe in, I never even thought about putting anything there. It made sense to put it here because it was an easy move. We used to have a big set of charger shelf parts on the shelves.
I remember.
Yeah, you helped me.
I helped carry part of that upstairs.
Half a car. But now that it's over there, and yes, with the mill and the other lathe and that stuff, that's efficient from a machine shop perspective. I still find that why didn't I think of that before? This makes so much more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just to reemphasize what you're saying is mix it up, try something new. You may not like it, you can always put it back. Maybe with the mill, that wouldn't be so easy. 3,000 pounds of
I think I'm busy that day.
Chris! He'll watch this. He'll appreciate that. So yeah, that's an important thing. Definitely is just try to look at it with fresh eyes. And I think the other thing that Mark has been really good. I don't know how many years you've been coming up here now. Is just sometimes a fresh perspective. Somebody that's not, you've been here more lately, but early on it was like you come in with fresh eyes and go, well, what about this? What about that? So when you have a good friend who can not be afraid to say, hey, pull your head out of your hinder, that helps too.
Right. I experienced that at my old job long time ago. We used to have printing presses there, and the printing presses were made in Italy. And so every few years, they would have somebody from the machine shop in Italy come over and just go through the machines. And the head of our maintenance department, was a little like, I don't want this Italian guy coming over here and telling me what to do, blah, blah, blah. But he came to realize fairly quickly that having this person come over, and that's the exact way that it was explained to him, was, Ricky, we're having somebody come in with fresh eyes, just to give you a different perspective. And maybe he might be able to show you something. Maybe you can show him something. Yeah. But yeah, he ended up coming around. He was hesitant at first. Hesitant is a nice word.
I can hear that language.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what are your closing thoughts, I guess, after spending the day and eating the burrito?
I think that everything looks fantastic the way it is right now. Always in my mind, there's always a few more things that could be straightened around, but considering where I came in, where we're at today, I consider it's fantastic. I'll put it in my calendar to be back here in about 3-4 weeks. We can do it all over again.
Oh, we can take another layer off.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I think this is good progress today. I'm happy to come up and help out.
Yep. Yeah, I think for me, having you come now that I understand my own thinking, because I always understood where you were coming from, the things you would say would make sense, but I could never maintain it. Mm-hmm. And now that I have a better handle on myself and my own style, it's just easier for me to say, let's try this, let's do that, whatever. And of course, you've seen these episodes enough to know where I'm coming from. Plus, we've worked together and known each other for 15 years or more.
Probably somewhere around there, yeah.
So it's just great to get some outside perspective, but also work with somebody who also understands where you're coming from and all of that. So I appreciate it. Thanks for coming up again.
Oh, always, anytime.
It was a little quicker than we expected, but
I have more time on my hands now.
That's true. That's true. It's all good.
It is all good. Yeah, it's not because they got me out of the release program again or anything like that.
They took off the ankle tether. Okay, I think that'll do it for this one. I really appreciate the feedback you guys give us on the shop organization stuff. I was a little bit reluctant, honestly, to enter into it, especially with the ashtray that used to come on the channel that I finally blocked.
Oh, yeah.
I still think he lurks. But anyway, we used to get some really just really vicious,
One-minded.
one-minded,
Yes.
insensitive. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Comments that were just completely unhelpful. And we haven't had that in a long time. But so I was reluctant to come into this, but you guys really have benefited from it and made good comments, been very supportive, and I plan to continue doing these, once a month or so until I don't. All right, that'll do it for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, whatever. We want to see the channel continue to grow, and we would appreciate that. So, did I forget anything?
There's one more thing.
Oh, yeah, I did, didn't I?
It's very important.
It is important. Don't forget. Welcome back to the shop. It's another Talk About It Tuesday. No, it's not. Start over.
No, we have to get our timing right on the rock on the end.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe I'll like do a foot tap.
Nobody will see that.